These guys are ridiculous. These guys are ridiculous.
Now, how about them damn Celtics?
And we are back with another episode of How About Them Celtics. Sam and I are here recording Saturday, June 1st, still in between breaks, or in a break, I should say, between the conference finals and the NBA finals. If my camera is frozen throughout the episode, I'm sorry. Hopefully the audio is fine, but I'm at the Airbag Center and the Wi-Fi is terrible. So we're going to have to deal with it. Sam, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Slept till like noon after getting up early to go to the airport and drop the girlfriend off. Went back to bed. Felt amazing. No wonder why you don't ever wake up.
Nice.
You could stay tuned today. We have plenty from practice on Saturday, I guess, and Friday. We can talk about Friday's practice a little bit too. Little Kristaps updates, what we know, the latest, and some NBA stuff. Zach LaVine, who I love very much, rumors. Timberwolves beef with Draymond. Then we'll have the rat list.
Plenty of stuff. Let's jump in with some stuff from practice, starting with probably what the title of the podcast is, which is the Celtics' plan to guard Luka Doncic and Kyrie. And I mean, to not bury the lead here, the plan is don't. Not really, but so John Corrales asked Joe Mazzulla, like, hey, how do you guard these two guys? They're like kind of awesome. Like, they're two of the best guards in the world. And Joe Mazzulla went on this long-winded answer of like, you can't, and so you have to do everything else. And so I'll read it here. It's a long quote, but I think it's very relevant, and I thought was a really intriguing perspective. So he was like, how do Luka and Kyrie test great defenses? And Joe said, so the whole thing is, that's what people like to focus on. They don't look at the game as a connected game. So if those guys play well, they beat you. They don't look at your offense. They don't look at your turnovers, your transition. They don't look at your second chance points, your execution on the offensive end. The game is connected, and it's not going to come down to just one thing. It's going to come down to the entire game. What was your transition defense like? What was your transition? Was your transition defense affected by your offensive rebounding spacing, your rim decisions, and your turnovers? Did you shoot the ball well? You have to score in order to win. You have to get back to once you get back in 5-on-5. Did you take away the necessary tendencies? Did you rebound the basketball? And so, like, the whole thing in this series is going to be about stopping those two guys. There is no stopping them. There's defending them at a high level, and there's playing a complete game, because every part of the game is connected. And so they've played 9 close games. We've played 4. There's going to be close games. The first 3.5 quarters are just as important as the last 2 minutes in the game. And if you look at the Minnesota-Dallas series, it was 4-1, but Minnesota was leading in 2 of those, maybe even 3 of those in the fourth quarter. And the things that they gave up are the things that you can't control over a long period of time. So we're not here to stop those guys. We're here to play a complete game of basketball and have an understanding of how each possession has an effect on everything else. They're going to score. It's what they do best. If we don't take care of the things that are within our control, then that doesn't put us in the best possible position to win. Again, sorry for the long quote, but I think it's important. And I think that's something that people do look over too easily. Like, everyone's coming into the series like, wow, Luka Doncic and Kyrie are going to kill the Celtics. And maybe, perhaps, like, there's a good chance those guys score a lot of points. Like Joe said, that's what they do. But that's not the only thing that goes into winning. And even if there are some possessions where the Celtics let them score, and it goes back to the Indiana series, like, there were possessions where the Pacers got an easy bucket, but it was a product of the Celtics taking a quick bad shot, and then Pascal Siakam ran out in transition, got Derrick White on him, and like got an easy bucket. That wasn't because the Celtics played bad defense. That's because the Celtics played bad offense. And so I think Joe has put a huge emphasis on the everything is connected part of the game, and that's not really something that you see a lot of people talk about. And in a series with 2 great players like Luka and Kyrie, I think it's super relevant.
You know who has talked about that is us. We talked so much about, specifically you. You are someone who's been hammering this for a while. When the Celtics don't see the ball go in the basket, sometimes they get grumpy and don't play defense and maybe don't put in the same effort that they should. It was kind of what we talked about when they lost game 2 to Miami. I don't know if we had a similar chat after game 2 against Cleveland. That one felt a little bit different, but the Miami one was one we felt that they should not have lost, yet things kind of got a little bit lax because the ball wasn't going through the hoop. So going against a team like Dallas, a team that has 2 offensive juggernauts in Luka and Kyrie, you do have to prepare yourself for that. It's a good thing that Mazzulla is keeping that mindset at the forefront of his game plan, because if you are going to get discouraged against Dallas when they're able to just target or run whatever offense they're trying to run with the ball in either one of those guys' hands, good luck, because there are going to be times where they just make a good play and you played great defense and there's nothing you can do about it. One thing I was thinking about with this series, Jack, and you can tell me if you agree or not. I think a great practice for the Celtics will be to get out and transition and try and run as much as possible, because Dallas is a team that likes to slow everything down. I mean, the way Luka plays is like in slow motion. He's phenomenal at it, but it's very like calculated. It's very slow. He's a surgeon. And if he's able to, just relax, play a slow paced game, it feels like it favors the Mavs. But if the Celtics are running in transition, those guys are going to get tired out a little faster too. It feels like it's not a perfect science, but just something I was thinking about as we were filling out the Celtics blog roundtable questions.
Thank you. I was listening to Hoop Collective this morning, and they mentioned this too. Luka's done a lot better job of like pushing the pace a bit in the playoffs. Like he'll look for the outlet pass, he'll look for a touchdown pass that Jokic throws. And he's Luka, so he's perfectly capable of throwing them. He's sort of adapted to that play style this season a little bit more. And so I do think a fast-paced game definitely benefits the Celtics more than benefits the Mavs because of the pieces both teams have. But I also think at the same time, like you mentioned how good Luka is at dissecting the game. I think the Celtics defense is a lot better when they're set. Like we've seen that all throughout the Pacers series. Like when the Celtics defense had a chance to get into the matchups they wanted and settle down in the half court, they were just infinitely more effective. And obviously that's going to be more difficult with two offensive engines like Luka and Kyrie. But like Joe Mazzulla said, like if the Celtics are playing good offense and they can get set, then that gives them an advantage. If the Celtics are keeping the Mavs to one shot, that gives them an advantage. If the Celtics are playing the transition game well on both sides of it, that gives them an advantage. Like it's not all about defending Luka and Kyrie. It's about everything that leads up to those points of slowing them down. And I think the Celtics have a real chance to sort of dominate those areas and a slowed down pace, as much as it may benefit Luka, I also think it helps the Celtics defense.
Okay. Yeah, on defense, I would agree. The thing about the transition fast break offense is that usually when the Celtics are doing that, it's because they're turning the other team over or the other team's missing shots and they're running off the misses. So it always looks much better and feels a lot better when they're playing that way, but it's really more of a dependent variable on how their defense is doing, kind of like how we started this conversation off. One thing I will say about the slow pace is I don't think the offense has been as bad as it once was for the Celtics when things have had to slow down. That Pacers series in particular really showed off some good decision-making from Boston, some good offense in terms of what they were actually trying to do. They actually felt like they had goals they were trying to penetrate. They weren't just settling for the ISO tough shot that they think that they're comfortable with. Instead, they got in, they drove, they got paint touches and kicked the ball out and played driving kick just like they do the entire game. So if you're able to get into a slow-paced back and forth with Dallas, but you keep your composure, you should still be okay. I can't speak. You should still be okay.
Scared me. What the hell was that? I've never heard you make that noise. What the fuck?
Just got absolutely tied up. Very tough. Very tough.
Damn, that was crazy.
Okay, my point was done though.
Circling back to the original thing, Luka and Kyrie, like, of course those guys are going to score, and I'm anticipating a lot of people within the fan base being frustrated when Luka inevitably scores 40 or Kyrie inevitably shoots like 4 of 6 from behind the 3-point line.
Stop him.
That is what those guys do. Like there is no stopping. There is no like completely nullifying their effect. Like you keep him to inefficient shooting, but if he's not inefficient, he's probably to have like 11 assists. You can keep him to like 5 assists on the night, but then he's probably to score really well. Like that's what the greatest players do. And so I think the Celtics are a good enough team where they can control everything else. And I think that's what's helped them throughout the season. Like I go back to it. I said on the last podcast, Donovan Mitchell played extremely well for a lot of that Cavs series when he was healthy, and it didn't really matter because the Celtics, outside of that game too, they did a good job of controlling everything else. And it worked out in the long run for him. Like Tyler Hero had that great game too, and the Heat won. But then outside of that, the Celtics were able to sort of like control him, slow him down, and do other things. And obviously Luka takes it to another level. But you've seen him control him in past years. You've seen him do it in the regular season. It's not going to be a perfect system, but it's the balance of, like Joe says all the time, like picking the things you're willing to live with and living with them and staying disciplined even when like if you're willing to live with Luka shooting floaters, you can't just automatically change your defense when he makes 3 of them in a row. Like, you have put in your game plan that you're willing to see him make those. And if he's making them, but you can't be like so erratic just to change your whole game plan, because like it's all about discipline. And so I think that's going to be a big part of this series, and something that fans might gloss over when they're watching the games, because it's not always as simple as always making them. You have to take that away, because then if you take that away, you're gonna have to live with threes, or you're gonna have to live with him dishing out a bunch of assists. Like, it's all a math game, and these teams, these coaches, these players have gone over the film a million different ways, and they kind of know what's best formula to winning. And I mean, at this point in the season, the Celtics have won so much that I don't think it's fair to question their strategy in getting to that finish line.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned like picking your poison with Luka. I think he's shooting 42% or something on off the dribble threes in the playoffs. Could be very wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Overall, though, he's not shooting that great. He's only shooting 34% from three, 43% from the field. So though he has been effective and he's punished teams, and he gave Minnesota hell in this last series, he hasn't been overly efficient. It's kind of what we saw from Luka in the regular season games against the Celtics, where he got his kind of by the end of the game, but it didn't feel like he was great in terms of putting the ball in the basket. Still dished out the assists, still got his teammates involved in all of those things. I'm going to keep saying it before this series starts. I'm looking forward to see how Jaylen does guarding Luka. He was really locked into that matchup this season. You guys know he told the media that he was really hurt that he did not make an all-defensive team. So he has just a great opportunity in front of him to play against one of the great offensive players probably ever and have the assignment of slowing him down. It's going to be fantastic when game 1 starts and it's not even Jaylen guarding him. But it feels like it's a great opportunity for Jaylen, and it should be just based on what he did in the regular season. And the other guys on Dallas, they really shouldn't scare you. They've been hot. It's just tough for me to sit here and cower in fear of Derrick Jones Jr. threes. I just can't do it. It's going to happen.
We'll circle
I'm gonna be
back.
mad.
We'll circle back when him and PJ Washington
It's going to be
under
awful.
6 in game 1.
There are going to be moments in this series, and you mentioned this. When you finally get this team to miss, please just get the rebound.
Mm-hmm.
Get the rebounds.
Have to.
Saw some bad examples of that against the Pacers, but time to fix it.
Next thing out of practice, a lot of Kyrie talk, as you would expect. Jayson Tatum was asked about the 2018-19 Celtics. I think Jay King asked him, among other things, but Jayson Tatum talked about sort of that team, what he learned from it, Kyrie of it all. And I don't have the full quote, but he basically said he called it a learning experience. He said it taught him that it takes more than talent to win. Obviously, this year's team has done a good job of putting that aside and pushing towards the ultimate goal. And that year's team wasn't really as effective. He said, quote, it wasn't a Kyrie problem. It was all of us. And so I just thought it was interesting to hear his perspective on that. Hear him talk about Kyrie. Obviously, Tatum and Kyrie have been friends. I think they are friends still. That wasn't the real relationship problem on that team. But I don't know. It's interesting to see the growth from then to now. And even Jayson said, he's like, oh, yeah, all of us, I mean, almost all of us have found success since that team, whether it be with this team or with other teams. So I don't know. It's interesting to hear his answer and see the growth from that team to now.
Everybody not named Gordon Hayward has found success in some way.
It's true. Unfortunately. So, yeah. Unfortunately.
Even Marcus Morris had a 25-point game in the playoffs this year, or whatever it was.
Well, Gordon Hayward made the Eastern Conference Finals with the Celtics in 2020. They went on to
and before he hurt his ankle, he actually was maybe the best guy in the bubble on the Celtics, for what it's worth. But all jokes aside, you had a very different answer on Kyrie today than you did from Horford the other day. It says a lot about the different relationships on that team. And I, for what it's worth, do agree with Tatum. It feels like there were a lot of issues. Like, you can look at everybody involved and kind of point at some weird external motivation that they had to have themselves at the front of everything instead of it being a team thing, much like you've seen this season where everyone's bought in, everyone's sacrificing. They brought in the correct players to fill in around Tatum and Brown, who are talented. Drew Holiday, Porzingis, even the growth of Derrick White. But they don't really care if they're going out there and getting a bunch of numbers. They're just like, okay, like, I've played long enough. I want to just continue to be successful. I want to win. I want to be on a competitive team. That year you had Kyrie with the weird contract thing hanging over and the commitment to the team he had made, and then things weren't going well and people were getting mad. He even called into 98.5. Did you see that clip go around? Kind of resurfaced this week. He called
Is that
in.
real?
I think that's real. As a
I
fake
don't believe
name and was like saying the fans messed up and everything. You can believe it, you cannot believe it, but it's out there. Go look it up and you can make your
No
own
way.
decision.
Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch all the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into 1,000 with basketball, hockey, college basketball entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. One of our favorite picks here at the How About Them Celtics podcast is the Drew Holiday blocks. It's usually 0.5. He just needs more than 0.5 blocks. That means 1 Drew Holiday block. And that pick is in the bag. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Then you have Hayward, who's trying to come back off that gruesome injury. He's trying to get his feet back underneath him. And his role's a little bit awkward because when he signed with the Celtics, he was meant to be the best wing. He was going to be the guy. When he signed, he was going to play with Isaiah, but then Kyrie came, and that's fine. But now Tatum and Brown have come off this tremendous 2018 playoff run. And he's like, well, do I even belong still? I mean, both those guys just balled out. They're, of course, going to be a quintessential part of this team. Where does Hayward fall? And then his transition back into the team was really weird. Horford was the only one that it didn't feel like he had anything extra going on, but his contract was up too, and he had to weigh his options as the season went on. And I think at the end of it, we found out that he had committed to signing with Philly before the playoffs even started. So all of that being said, there were more, and Terry Rozier was also another problem. He thought he should have been getting more minutes, more shots, and all that. But with all that being said, Kyrie has become the poster guy for that year, the disaster. But if you go back and you think about it, there really were a lot of pressures coming from everybody. Now, whether or not Kyrie handled it great as the face of the team is another story, but it probably was not all on him.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance to it all. I know you dislike Kyrie far more than I do. I still think there was way more that went into it than, like, I don't know. There was a lot going on at the time. Obviously, like his family issues. I don't fully blame him. I know the quitting on the team thing is the only part that really, like, I think doesn't sit well
That's
with me.
what
But
I
even
hate
that,
the
like,
most.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it was how many years ago? 5 years ago, 6 years ago now.
People don't
Whatever.
forget.
Like
Super
it
bad.
happens. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's cringe, but whatever. We can have different opinions.
It's
I don't
not
give a
cringe.
shit.
You can
Let
hold
the
a
guy
grudge. Listen, I don't hold as much of the other antics up as much as I just really hated the playoff energy you got from it. I thought it was terrible. But that's as much as I'll say about it. We don't need to keep talking about it because I really hate that this Kyrie thing is like hijacked the entire finals too.
Exactly.
And
That's why it's cringe. That's the
Yeah.
whole point. Like, why? Who cares? It was 5 years ago. Like, get a new bit. I don't know. That's my thing. I don't give a shit anymore.
I wonder if in Dallas they're like, hey, what if we all just prayed against Porzingis, prayed on his downfall? Probably not. Probably not as much.
Well, I don't know. It is what it is, man. I don't give a shit. But that's gonna be a big part of it.
I'm all for spite, but it is the finals. We should.
Eh.
We have. I think we have done a good job about talking about everything else, even though we did a whole Kyrie video yesterday.
Next thing, and this is what my Celtics blog article is going to be about. It's definitely out
yes.
by the time you guys are listening to this. The Celtics have this huge break in between games. They've had a huge break in between every series, and this is the biggest one between the conference finals and the finals. Before the All-Star break, Joe was asked about like the break. I mean, how many times can I say that word in this segment? And he said, "I hate breaks. I wish there wasn't a halftime," which I thought was the most Joe quote. And so I asked Joe, Derrick White, and Jayson Tatum about it today. Joe said, just relaxing, getting out of the fight, letting your emotional and mental guard down. You just got to keep those things up. So you have to create havoc in practice. You have to stress the details, overwork them in the film room, and just do everything you can to make sure the guys stay in the fight. But I trust those guys. They're professionals. They've done a lot, so I don't really have to do much because of who they are. Tatum and White both spoke about it. Derrick White said the coaches have done a good job of sort of keeping them locked in. Tatum said it's been nice to give the body a rest, but at the same time, he does wish the final started a bit sooner. It's just such an interesting balance to me because, like, it is so natural to sort of just let your guard down and be like, okay, cool, now we can rest and just chill. But at the same time, like, the biggest games of the season are in a week, and there's got to be a balance between all the guys have talked about, like, yes, this rest and rest is like painted as this massive advantage that these teams have. But then at the same time, going into the season, everyone was like, oh, load management doesn't work. And so if load management doesn't work, wouldn't that apply to just general rest that these teams have quote unquote earned? Like, won't they get rusty? It's not the exact same, but like it's similar enough to where, like, why is this huge break in the playoffs treated as this massive, unbelievable advantage that these teams have, but load management of keeping a guy, healthy and resting them for stretches throughout the season is the worst thing in the world for you? Like that doesn't make sense to me. And I think even past the just physical aspect of it, like mentally staying locked in those moments is important too. So I was interested to see how they've been handling in practice. And it sounds like Joe is just like keeping on them, which is probably a good thing, but at the same time, like giving them time to rest.
I despise the breaks. I'll tell you what, it does give us a good chance to see if we still have our August fastball ready to go. And we do, clearly. Look at us dominating, putting up videos every single day. But back to the point of Joe and keeping these guys fresh. I thought the load management thing that you just said was pretty interesting, because I do think of load management as like a negative thing. I've talked about, like, it feels like a use it or lose it situation. But the good thing about the playoff rest, which is a scheduled rest, or not a scheduled rest, an earned rest, well, load management tends to be a scheduled rest, is because this is an earned rest, the team itself can do what it wants with the time. So they're able to have back-to-back practices like we saw Friday, Saturday. It's not, oh, this guy's just not going to play for 5 days and then go right into an NBA game.
Well, that's
They're
not what
able
happens
to
either,
control
though.
this.
Like, the players could be practicing, like, when they're not, they're
they don't really
managing.
have practices in the season, though. Like,
but the players
frequently.
They can still individually train, though. Like it's not like Kawhi is having these load management press stretches where he's not sniffing a basketball court for 5 days. Like, he's probably still training with trainers. He's probably still on the court with coaches. He's just not playing in the games.
It's
so,
still
like,
different.
Yes, but it's not different enough where one should be treated as this like obscene advantage and one is like the worst thing in the world for you. That's where I feel like a disconnect is, and it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not saying you're saying anything against that,
rust,
but
is like a conversation people have had forever, especially in the playoffs, right? Like, we've talked about, like, oh, like, this team, are they going to be able to show up in game one after sitting there playing patty cake for a week? Or is the team that's been rolling just going to be fresh and ready and locked in still after playing a game 7? This year, we have found that the Celtics are good at the rest. Whether or not it's just been coincidence or it's been they have found a great way to utilize this time is another story. But the statistics tell you they have played, up to this point, 3 short series. All 3 of them started after a good amount of rest. And they came out in game 1, aside from the Pacers game 1, I suppose, and played pretty well. And they still won the Pacers game 1, but it was the shakiest of the bunch. They are a team that is equipped to do this, but not every team is like that. You're absolutely right. I don't think it's impossible to say sitting there for a week before these games is the greatest. And I don't know if you mentioned what Tatum said, but I saw Noah put up the clip. He was like, yeah, just anxious for it to get going. Wish we didn't have to sit around as long. And I feel that. It's like icing the kicker, except you're icing the whole team a little bit before the finals. I don't really know where I fall on this, but because the Celtics have come out in game 1s despite having a large amount of rest, I'm not too worried about the amount of rest they have. But I can see wouldn't it be great if they just kind of kept a rhythm going? Just depends on how you feel about it.
I'm not worried. I think they'll be fine regardless. I think it's such an interesting conversation because, like, rest is treated so differently based on how it comes about. But at the end of the day, it's still rest. Like, you're still resting. It's the same thing. It's the same act. It's just people are slammed for it when it's a chosen rest, and people are praised for it when they've quote unquote earned it because they won a bunch of games. But the outcome and the act of resting is still the exact same. Like they're still not playing in games, whether it be by choice or whether it be because there are no games to play. Like you are still resting, and it's not like you said, like there's no way Kawhi is just not touching a basketball. He just doesn't go to fucking Cancun for 5 days and then come back and play. No, he's still on the court. He's still with the team. He's still doing stuff. It's just he's not playing in the games, and it's not the same because it's individual players rather than a whole team. Like there definitely are differences, but there's not enough of a difference to make one the worst thing in the world and the other like the opposite end of the spectrum.
Well, I think the choice matters. I think, you know, and that's something you mentioned. You're not disregarding that. I do think the difference between individual player drills and a team practice does make a little bit of a difference. These guys can, whether or not they do, I don't know. You don't know because they have the practice.
They probably do. They do shoot-arounds and stuff. There's still shoot-arounds in some practices throughout the season. They're just less frequent.
The practices are far less frequent, but I know shoot-arounds do happen. I just think, like, at today's practice, right, I know Missoula said it was light, which we'll get to. But, like, yesterday, we don't know what the hell they did. They could have played hard scrimmages and really been intense and got those game-like reps in, which I just don't think you're going to do if you're on the road, the rest of your team's prepping for games. I think there's a little difference, and I think the way the team handles it is more of a thing that they control in this situation rather than if it's just one guy that has to do drills. But they are still able to stay active, to your point.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like the difference between the chosen rest and the earned rest, while it does exist, is so much smaller of a gap than the difference between the way they're talked about, which I think is interesting. Anyways, next thing out of practice, Derrick White had his trick shot competition. This can be short, but I thought it was funny, and so I thought I'd shed some light on it. I don't know if there's any videos of it on Twitter. Let me check Noah's page because why wouldn't I? Hold up. I don't know if I see. Oh, yep, shocker. Okay, here we go. Here's the video.
Shocker.
Here's Derrick White's trick shot competition. Today, the trick shot, was try to kick the ball into the basket from behind the 3-point line. And so this was Derrick and the assistant coaches doing it. Spoiler alert, none of them got it. But it was funny because by the end of it, when they were like winding it down so Derrick could go do, his press conferences, they said free for all. And then all of the coaches just started kicking the ball sporadically at the hoop from behind the 3-point line.
Oh, this is
which is a very funny visual. Some of them got close. Alex Merg, who's a part of the player dev staff, stayed a little.
Well, that was a close one from Taylor.
Yeah,
Tyler
stayed a little longer after, and he got close on some of them. But just no one could get it to fall. But they had some close attempts for sure. It was.
I made one of these not long ago from the free throw line, 3-point line.
Really?
Make no mistake. Yeah, I was just shooting around and I did it. They're doing push-ups.
And then if they don't get it, they have to do push-ups. That's the rule. So.
Oh man, they're just gonna be jacked just doing push-ups.
Tough.
They're less than a week from the finals. This is what they're fucking doing. You kicking the ball?
Up. No.
I want to do sports radio for a minute.
No.
Kicking the ball?
No.
I saw Noah
Conversation
put up
shut
a
down.
video of Jalen shooting free throws, and I think she captioned it like Jaylen Brown shooting free throws while him and Peyton Pritchard laugh. And I had the knee-jerk instinct. Oh, it was your instinct. I mean, your video. I'm sorry. I just assume everything is hers. Ask on you and me. You know what they say. But I had the instinct to quote it and be like, guys shooting 65% from the free throw line and we're fucking laughing. But I didn't do it.
The worst. You're the worst.
Because it's a joke. And I don't want to. Twitter's tough, man. I get mad at people sometimes when they like take things out of context on there. And,
you say it as
spread misinformation.
It's a joke, and I understand you saying it and tweeting it as a joke. But there are people out there who genuinely believe it, which is why I don't like saying it or pushing it, even as a joke.
Well, I'll say it on here because you can sense it with my tone and my delivery. But I'm trying to do less tweeting with that. Trying to be better.
It's crazy that people actually believe it. It's insane. But yeah, Noah also asked Derrick about the trick shot stuff because of course. And he was just like, yeah, it's our way of just like keeping it light because it is a game, but at the same time, like it's just talking about like the importance of having fun. And that's something I wrote about earlier this season too. Like,
be nice if you
can't always
game shots. Hey, gang, let me tell you a little something about Game Time. The NBA playoffs have arrived. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Who doesn't want to get in on the fun? With Game Time, you can experience it with your own eyes. Get yourself great seats to games with even greater prices. That's right. You can save when getting your tickets with Game Time. It's an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting those playoff tickets even faster and easier. Plus, the prices on Game Time usually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. Who doesn't love to save a little bit of money? I certainly do. I used Game Time back in March when I took the lady to a game. We went to see the Celtics play our Pistons, and it was great. I could look and see what the seat view would be just using the app. Didn't have to be surprised when I showed up. Plus, you do get those last-minute deals. They have the flash deals and zone deals. Zone deals, which you can choose a section of the arena and let Game Time choose those seats. You'll save a little bit of money that way. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Next thing, Joe talked about
kickball violations over there.
Shut the fuck up. Joe talked about Kristaps Porzingis update. He was obviously, I mean, he's going to be asked about it every single fucking day here. But he said, quote,
Poor
he did
guy.
everything the team did. We'll go significantly harder tomorrow. Today was moderate, but he went through everything that the team did today. Bobby Manning asked him about the drills KP did. And Joe said, basketball drills. He looks pretty good going through them, which is just probably the least useful thing ever. He praised Kristaps' ability to do everything the team needs, doing what the team expects from him. Talked about how good he's been for the team when he's at his best, said he expects him to be at his best, et cetera, et cetera. He plans to give him that during the series. Jared Weiss was asking about like how excited KP has been to play past the second round, and even though he hasn't gotten the chance this year, like his mentality and how he's been. Joe said, I mean, based on the numbers, he said, I mean, he's been the same. One of the great things about him is he's been through so much in this league. He has a poise and temperament about him. So he's been the same throughout the entire series. His highs don't get too high, his lows don't get too low. He's got a great perspective, great understanding, great experiences in his career. And I think that's been a gift for our team this year. So I kind of enjoy how he goes about carrying himself. So it just sounds like Kristaps, as per usual, has been the good vibes KP that he's been all season, and is staying in good spirits. And it does sound like he's starting to ramp up ahead of the finals, even if I don't know if he'll be 100%. That's just my thought, but he is ramping up.
I think if they win the title, you should give Joe a gift stethoscope, because he has had to play doctor, and he told you guys that he's not a doctor pretty much, so that'd be a little funny. I mean, I have planted the flag now. I think Porzingis is going to play. I think Missoula telling you guys literally anything about him kind of points to that, after he played dumb for as long as possible and was like, I'm not a doctor, guys. Quit asking me. I'm happy that he's hopefully going to play. I think he's an impactful player. I think he helps them play a more balanced half-court offense. He's somebody else that they can throw the ball to, slow things down, put pressure on the defense in a more controlled way in the high post, where they have to make a decision whether or not they want to commit to him, and he doesn't even have to put the ball on the floor. He can keep it above his head. It's less chaotic than going to the basket on a drive. Not that that is ever a bad thing. Well, it can be, I guess, if Jalen wants to go up on three guys. But overall, it's just a very controlled way to put pressure on them, and I like that, especially for late game situations. Again, I'm starting to feel more and more confident with them playing late in the game. I thought the things that they did in the Pacers series really spell success going forward, just because it felt like they changed their approach. And with him, hopefully they're able to do more and more of that. And I'm excited to see how he's able to impact the defensive end. He hopefully will have as much athleticism as we've seen, and will be good at deflecting passes, specifically alley-oops, on drop coverage. He is a crucial part, I think, of kind of slowing down the pick and roll, as silly as it may sound, because he's not exactly the most mobile person ever. But he should be able to get some key deflections.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see him back in the court. Like I said, I don't personally think he'll be 100%. It's just like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like he's been progressing fast enough to where he's absolutely definitely going to be his exact self. And even if he is 100% healthy, like there's going to be rust. There's going to be, getting back into the game flow of things. issues that he's going to run into. But just having his presence on the court, I think, is going to be huge for the Celtics, which I'm very excited to see because it feels like it's weird to think that Kristaps is still on this team. Like, we've watched the Celtics play for so long in the playoffs without him. Like, this is the longest stretch the Celtics have gone all season without Kristaps, right? Like, even that little calf issue he had earlier in the year wasn't this long. And so it's
I think
like,
it was
I forget he's
probably
on the team
similar.
sometimes. No, there's
Maybe
no
it
way.
wasn't as long.
Let me look
Yeah, it's
it up.
been
I
over
think it was
a
like
month.
it was only like 4 games without him earlier this season. It felt like a lot more. Let me double check.
I might
though.
be wrong.
Um,
Shout out to whoever was on Twitter and was like, if the Celtics win the finals without Kristaps, did they lose the trade? No.
the longest gap they spent without him was from March 9th to the 17th, 5 games. And this has been what? 9, 10, 11 games? And a longer time
11.
than that in the regular season because it's the playoffs and the break between series. So it's been a long time without KP.
10 and a half games, I guess.
Yeah. Long time without KP. But anyways, hopefully he can come back soon. Okay. Shall we go to the email here? Let's
pull it up.
Reminder, as always, you guys can email us at hbtcpod@gmail.com. Sorry, at the hiccups.
Nothing worse than the hiccups, by the way.
It's brutal.
Nothing worse.
All right, 4 emails today, starting with RJ. With love and respect, no free publicity for asshats. RJ, evening, folks. I have another simple request for everyone. For all the legit news people and bloggers like YouTube, Noah, Bobby, Cam, Drew Carter, Scott Van Pelt, JJ Redick, and the First to the Floor crew, S.J. Gamelli, Caitlin Cooper, people who do research and report what they find. I'm happy to sing your praises and plug y'all by name so more people know about your work. But for the clickbait shills and morning show trolls, my even mentioning them by name in passing even mentioning them by name in passing gives more traction than I feel comfortable with. So from here on out, I'm only referencing Schmendrick Gherkins, Lip Palis, and that loud guy from Philly, if I need to mention them all. If they feast on attention, they can starve on what they give them. I encourage others to do the same. Be well, enjoy virtual August, and let's wing this thing. RJ, and willing to be as petty as I need to be. Schmendrick Gherkins really tripped me up there. I was having trouble reading that, but I got that.
I had no idea what he was talking about. It took me a minute for the loud guy from Philly, too.
I still don't know who that is. Who is that?
Is that Stephen A? Stephen A.
Is
from
he
New
from
York.
Philly?
But I think he did work in Philly, like covering the Sixers for a while. Like maybe that's what it is. Overall, kind of agree with RJ wholeheartedly. Quit fucking talking about these people. If you don't like what they're saying, quit sharing their videos on Twitter. Stop giving them free clicks and just ignore it. It does not matter what Perk has to say about the Celtics. It does not matter what Stephen A. has to say about the Celtics. It doesn't matter what Bob Myers has to say about the Celtics. It doesn't matter if you don't like what Doris Burke is saying about the Celtics. It does not matter. Just like RJ says, stick to the people that are pretty on the ball.
Yeah. Next email from RJ again. With love and respect, Fleetwood Mac had 11 albums before Rumors. Okay, well, we'll see if I understand what this is talking about. Evening, folks. Virtual August makes me look in odd directions. Bear with me. I'm listening to the First to the Floor live with Noah Delzell as a guest, and their conversation veered to who would be anointed as, quote, the face of the NBA or whatever we're calling it, JT, Luka, or Ant-Man. It got me thinking about, what about JB? He's got a claim to being an amazing talent, but the Celtics are a good team that has come together unlike any other that I can think of. Even with the addition of KP and Drew this year, there was a core that had grown up together starting 7 years ago. JB, JT, Pritchard, Hauser have been Celtics for life so far. Horford, D. White, and Luke Cornett are all veterans who have become a part of the cultural fabric of Boston organization, all without winning a title yet. Then it hit me. Fleetwood Mac. Mac had been together for 7 years, too. Put out 11 albums. They were already a super group because of their familiarity with each other over time. And then they rolled out their magnum opus, Rumors. The Celtics winning it this year isn't a squad of leading men or hired guns like Michael and the Jordanaires or Shaq and Kobe doing their John and Paul version of the Beatles. The Big Three in 2008 was certainly an assembled squad. This year's team is knit together. And it's that unity that makes the Celtics head and shoulders better than everyone else in the league this season. Everyone has a moment to shine this year, and that keeps pulling them together. So be well, let's win this thing. And most of all, don't stop. And then he linked, don't stop. Thank you, RJ. I don't know. Would I know any Fleetwood Mac songs? Do you know any Fleetwood Mac songs?
So, yes, but not by name. You know what I mean? Like if I hear it, I'm like, yes, okay. When I run, sometimes I kind of mix up my music and I'll just run with Spotify playlists and I'll do like classic rock or something. So sometimes when I do that, I get a good amount of Fleetwood Mac in there. Good music, for sure.
I know. I want to know if I know any of the songs now. Like I don't know if
I truly cannot name one off the top of my head, but I'm telling you right now, anytime I look at my phone and it says Fleetwood Mac,
Let's
good
see.
stuff.
Dreams. Do I know this? I don't know if I do. I definitely recognize it, but I think you made a good point. Like I couldn't name these. If
Correct.
like I wouldn't know the names of these songs. Okay. Anyways, thank you, RJ. I think that's a good point. I think the Celtics have bonded together as a team, in terms of chemistry and all that good stuff. So hopefully that they can put out their magnum opus this year, like you said. Next email from Troy Mackey. Shout out Troy. Quick Dallas analysis. Hey guys, using the old talkback line, the first time, long time. Great show. You guys really do the work, which is far better than the lazy takes from some. Here's my quick analysis of the Celtics-Mavs matchup. One, I am not sure what the defensive structure of the Mavs will play. I'm not sure what defensive structure the Mavs will play, as they have yet to be actually tested with more than 3 shooters per team. They have always been able to hide players and keep their bigs in the paint. This is a point that I heard on the Hoop Collective, which I think is important. 2, going back to the regular season, they've had a tendency to overhelp. There may be a heap of wide open corner threes this series. That is what they've been giving up in the playoffs. That tends to be where most teams hide bad shooters. We aren't hiding Drew and D White. 3, they will need to help. Their wing defenders aren't the worst by a long shot, but this is probably the close to the levels of Cavs wing defenders, not Miami. Bam played as a wing defender. So 4, with 5 great offensive weapons on the floor at most times, Cornhub, Brisket, and Teabag may play and have to be excluded from offensive weapon. I don't think those guys will play too much. There will be consistent mismatches for them to take on. That includes at the 5, as those guys are known for their drop and help coverage. 5, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a zone. This is actually why I'm so confident here. I'm pretty sure the Mavs may think they are better than who we have played and implement a zone. 6, I won't be surprised. I also won't be surprised if they try something funky and to try to junk up our spacing. Pre-switch a big onto Drew. However, I am almost guaranteeing that won't work either, as it will mean a J being guarded by Luka. 7, our defense is actually designed for this offense. It will be way easier if KP is out there, but I expect them to chase Luka off the 3-point line and funnel him into tough shots. This is, however, where a weakness will come in. Lively is basically the 5 version of Aaron Gordon, and Luka is the small forward version of Jokic. He's a 3 and not a 1. He only gets called a 1 because he is small enough. If he is a 1, so is Jokic. So expect backdoor cuts. I also disagree with that, but we don't have to get into that conversation. Well, he's okay. Now I want to get into the conversation.
No,
he's
I
a
know
1 because
I know you feel this way. I'm just teasing you.
Jokic is a 5 because they put a 1, 2, 3, and 4 next to him. Luka is a 1 because they put a 2, 3, 4, and 5 next to him. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Kyrie was 1 forever.
But they're both guards, and Kyrie has the ball more than Luka, or Luka has the ball more than Kyrie. So Luka's the point guard, Kyrie's the shooting guard. Like Drew Holiday and Derrick White are both point guards, but Derrick White has the ball more, so he's the point guard. And Drew Holiday's. It doesn't fucking matter, anyways. 8, closeouts need to be at Miami Game 3 level, not Miami Game 2. Their wings aren't great shooters, but they can hit open shots. 9, live with Luka high contested 2s, don't ever help. 10, Drew on Kyrie is my choice. That's interesting. 11, don't keep the looks constantly the same. Also, I have the expectation that you guys will hear the word, quote, discipline from Joe on a real consistent basis. Correct. I know how disciplined we are after watching the Pacers hit ungodly amounts of contested middies. Thanks for all your hard work, Troy. A lot of good points in here, Troy.
Troy, thanks for your hard work.
Yeah, what the hell?
11
That was
talking
great.
points.
Anything that stands out the most to you, Sam?
I think we should talk about the Kyrie matchup a little bit. I know you're writing about this for Celtics blog. I already did. I don't know if you finished it up yet, but you were writing about the backcourt matchups. So by your reaction to number 10, I'm thinking that you had Derrick White guarding Kyrie, which is okay. And I think it makes more sense because he is not as bulky as Drew. He's not as strong as Drew, where Drew can kind of hang with Luka if need be. But go ahead. I'll let you cook.
It is out. I wrote about how the Celtics could potentially defend Kyrie and Luka. Sorry.
Put lucky on him.
I would put Jalen on Luka, and for what it's worth, when I reacted that way, I read that as Drew on Luka is my choice, but I still think Derrick on Kyrie is the correct choice. I think Jalen on Luka Derrick on Kyrie, Al on probably Al or KP on Derrick Jones Jr. And then you put Jayson on PJ Washington and then Drew on the center. Jayson on the center, Drew on PJ Washington. Because Drew has thrived this season by being able to sort of freeform his defense and help off the ball and provide help in the lanes. And so I think if you put him on either Derrick Jones or PJ Washington, he'll have more freedom to do that. I think he's capable of guarding Kyrie. I think that's a matchup that will inevitably be happen throughout the series just because teams get scrambled and shit happens. But I'm curious to see how the Celtics open up the series defensively because I think there's a lot of different directions they could go. And you could see him on Luka. You could see Jalen on Kyrie. You can see all these guys and everybody else. And I think that's the beauty of the Celtics defense.
That is the beauty of it. And I've been talking about this with you. I'm just so excited with how they can shake things up and they can really get fancy, get creative, and keep things fresh and make it difficult on Dallas where they can't get comfortable with any particular scheme. I'm looking forward to seeing that in the series as well.
Yes, sir. Last email we've got, which is from Justin Chapin. View of the finals. HBTC. I'm predicting the Celtics in 6, assuming we can get 10 to 15 minutes of semi-healthy Porzingis. Here's how I see the matchup comparison. Are the Celtics better than they were in 2022? Yes, this team would have won the finals. We were 8 minutes, an injured center in Williams, and a bum Tatum wrist away from that being up 3-1 in that series. Are these Mavs better than the 2022 Warriors? It's doubtful, but even if they're as good, we still have room for error. Beyond these obvious comparisons, I really feel the Celtics have been playing at around 80%. It's been injuries that have brought them up short every year. IT's hip, Kyrie's ego, Hayward's ankle. That's funny listening to that as an injury. Hayward's ankle, Kemba's knee, Jalen's wrist, Williams' knees, Tatum's ankle, Smart's ankle. The list goes on. Except for Porzingis, we are healthy. This is our year. Thanks for all the great content. Go green, Justin. I agree with these points. I also just think it's funny that everyone has been thank you for listening. I was think it's funny how all the national media, and again, it doesn't matter. It's just been look at all these injured teams the Celtics are facing. They're healthy. No, they're not. They've just they're just well equipped to handle an injury better than other teams. What the hell?
I mean, Justin even lost my injured knee last year. Put me out there in Game 7. They only lose by 20.
Man. Thank you, Justin. All right, let's move on to the NBA. Starting with your favorite player in the NBA, Zach LaVine. According to Casey Johnson of NBC Sports Chicago, the Bulls' asking price for LaVine has dropped significantly. A lot of talk about whether they'll have to attach assets to dump him. Casey Johnson said with LaVine's market barely materializing, it appears Chicago might be willing to simply perform a salary dump deal. I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough look. I still think LaVine's a fine player. I think if you put him in the right situation, he'll be fine. He's just not a $45 million player. We're running into the Tobias Harris level of discussion. It's unfortunate, but that's where it is. And that's kind of how it's going to happen.
So Zach LaVine is somebody that would maybe 3, 4, maybe even 2 years ago was always on those Twitter posts that was you got to pick one. And it's him, Devin Booker, Jalen. It's how did he get in there? It's the meme of the soldiers, and then there's one clown also scaling the wall with them. That's what it's been. And I've been hammering that I don't think LaVine is a very good thing forever. I never thought he was worth as much money as they pay him. And now it looks like Chicago has found this out the hard way. They have paid him. He's making money. They tried to trade him this season. Nobody wanted to trade for him because he makes too much money and his impact isn't quite there. And now you're getting to a point where they're going to have to literally give up more things to get rid of him. And the Bulls are already in a tough spot. They already don't have that much talent, at least top tier talent. DeRozan's fine. Vucevic is fine. But they don't have anybody that's going to win you enough games to get into the playoffs. They've been playing losers the last couple seasons, and they haven't done anything to make the roster better. So good luck to them. Where do we think LaVine's going? Probably the Lakers. Because the Lakers are getting everybody. I know you've mentioned this. The Kings are also a very, very appealing fit, if you ask me.
I like the Kings. I think the fact that his market is so low now should open up more opportunities for teams to trade for him. The Bulls suck, man. Fuck the Bulls. Bulls are tragic.
Cavs, go get him.
Nah. I don't like it for the Cavs. I don't hate him for the Bucks. I don't know what it would be, but yeah, I don't hate it. I know the defense wasn't
That's
good.
down bad right there.
Well, if the price is just a salary dump and you can move like nothing for him, like I don't hate it. Talent is talent. And I think he could. I don't know. I think the Magic are intriguing. If they could just get him for nothing, like get a shot creator in there, get some sort of offensive hub with a good defensive structure around him. Sixers would be fine to be a third option there.
That's where I was going to go. I was going to say salary dump, team that has $1 billion to just throw around, Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
Even Milwaukee, though, like you mentioned that as a salary dump, it feels like everybody that makes money for them is somebody they like. Lopez just got the contract. Giannis makes a bunch of money. Dame makes a bunch of money. They pay Middleton healthy. Besides that, like, where are you piling up the money to get? Unless, listen, like, if you're Milwaukee, you may have a Celtics situation on your hands where you come up short a couple seasons in a row, first round exit back-to-back seasons now, and you're kind of like, well, something has to change. So you give up maybe a Middleton. Well, they did, but now they're like, oh boy, we're really in trouble now.
Down.
Listen, I thought the Lillard thing was bad all summer last year. I told you a billion times I don't think he's going to be somebody that's worth the money he's getting paid. But going to go get Zach LaVine is another level of just down bad.
It's true. Interesting one. If you're the Jazz and you don't have to give up anything, and you can get the Bulls to give you like a couple seconds, do you do it?
Maybe. The Jazz are one of those teams where they're in a weird spot because they are kind of good, but at the same time, if you trade for Zach LaVine, he's going to have a similar role that he had in Chicago, where he's going to be one of the top two guys at the very least. He might end up being your number one. You've seen that he's not fantastic in that. Whether you want to look at the stats or not, like, he's just simply not winning games as that guy. So if you're going to bring him in, it does feel like he's better suited to be on a team like a Philly or even Milwaukee.
By
Houston, it's the same thing. Like, I don't think LaVine is the trade for me guy to bring your team up a rung on the ladder, especially in the West, where the West, we saw it this year. What were the records of the teams in the play-in? Like,
yeah, but the difference is the Rockets going up a rung in the ladder with LaVine isn't going from playoff team to title contender. It's going from not making the play to making the play. And I think LaVine gets you there at the very least with the roster they have.
The Rockets would become the abyss of mid. You would have Zach LaVine and Fred VanVleet as your money guys.
I mean, they've already fucking committed to that now.
Well, they haven't. That Fred VanVleet thing is up after this year, I think. Like, they put themselves in a good spot where they were paying somebody probably too much money, but they're still flexible. They perfected the overpay, I think. Good money, just not a lot of years on the contract, and you're kind of not handcuffed to that.
It's going to be the Lakers, isn't it?
Lakers are getting everybody. Welcome back.
I actually saw something. Jovan Buha, the Athletic, said that they're not interested anymore, so maybe not.
That's really down bad. If you're Zach LaVine and the Lakers don't want you, the Lakers want everybody.
I don't think it's they're not interested in him. I think it's there are better options and he would be a last resort. Like, they'll go after Mitchell, they'll go after Trae Young. You know what I'm saying? Now that there are people available.
Still.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Anyways. Next NBA thing. Speaking of the Lakers, the Pelicans are going to defer their pick this year to next year, meaning instead of taking the Lakers 17th overall pick in this year's draft, they're going to be taking the Lakers pick next year. I think this is stupid. I think this is really dumb by the Pelicans. I think the Lakers could be a little better next year, if anything. Like, I mean,
Lakers are getting everyone.
Not even that, but like, it's not like LeBron and AD had a bad season. AD had a great season, and you could argue maybe he's not going to be as healthy.
9th.
Exactly, but I think with that pick, with another summer of trying again, like, I don't know. I just think the Lakers could end up getting better pieces this year, and for all the dog shit they've had of putting together bad teams around LeBron and AD, I don't know. Maybe it's ill faith, but like expecting them to be significantly worse in terms of record and standing next year, I don't think is a good gamble. Especially like maybe it's just as simple as we'd rather have the like at worst 23rd pick in next year's draft and the 17th in this one. So I guess from that perspective, it's fine. But I don't know.
I just think it's funny because, like, last summer, right? We had a conversation about the Lakers when free agency happened. And we were kind of talking about, are the Lakers, or like, who's making the best moves in free agency? And you really felt like they did a good job. And you are not somebody that's a ESPN guy that is required to bring up the Lakers. Like, you legitimately felt like they made good moves. And yet this season happens. LeBron and AD are healthy. You mentioned it, like they had a good season, yet this team was still not good.
In
free
hindsight,
agency is still not like is not the same thing as it used to be, where there's like real talent available. It's more like, which is, I guess they need the fringe guys, but like any substantial acquisition you're going to make is through trade. It's not really in free agent signing anymore.
in hindsight, they probably didn't have enough shooting. I also think in like an underrated part of it is like they're gonna have a new coach. Like I do think a new coach will help because I do think a big part of their failure was
Guy that's never coached before.
I just heard a lot of complaints about the way Darvin Ham was running lineups. Like Darvin Ham didn't have their best five out there to start the games a lot of the times and all that stuff. Anyways, whatever. It doesn't matter. I also think that part of it isn't even Lakers based. It's just this draft class kind of sucks, and so the Pelicans are like, all right, fuck that. We want the pick next year.
It's true. That's very true. Well, another thing about this draft class is it's not very good at the top, but you may end up getting sleepers, is what I think Tyler Rucker told us. I think we may.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
this might be a good Celtics draft to pay attention to, because at pick 30, they may be able to cap. Well, they probably won't pick at 30. You know they're going to trade. But
I was gonna say.
like even in the second round, right? Like they're going to have a couple second round picks, and it's like, well, what if they got this guy, and then they don't really have to commit money to him, and he can be somebody that they bring in to eventually be a supporting cast member of this Celtics team going forward.
Yeah. We'll see.
Also, Pelicans, Zach LaVine, maybe. Brandon Ingram.
Perhaps. Yeah, I don't really want to CJ McCollum, Zach LaVine backcourt, though. That sounds like
CJ McCollum, then.
Head in the microwave. Maybe. I don't know.
I think LaVine would give you a better version of what Ingram is supposed to give them if Zion is healthy. Because anytime Zion has actually played for the Pelicans, they are pretty decent.
I'd rather trade McCollum for him.
Sure.
But if I'm the Bulls, I want Ingram. I don't know. We'll see.
You have yourselves a stalemate, dude. Just a fucking 2 garbage cans looking to trade trash.
We'll see what happens. Next thing is the Timberwolves versus Draymond Green. This came out in a piece from John Krasinski of The Athletic. Apparently, the Timberwolves, I'll just read the quote here. No player would appear on TNT's Inside the NBA after their victory in Game 4 in Dallas. The decision was a sign of support for Gobert and Towns, were the subject of derisive, what is this word? And seemingly personal criticism from panelist Golden State forward Draymond Green. What is derisive? What is this word? Do I not know this word?
They just fucking mean.
Expressing contempt or ridicule. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that word. Yeah, Draymond is kind of an asshole to those two guys. And so, I mean, hell yeah, I like this. If I'm the Timberwolves, fuck that guy. I agree. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck the guy.
If I'm a Timberwolves fan, I'm pumped. I'm like, this is a good group. They stand up for each other. This is another thing. Like, why is Draymond everywhere? I think Draymond's podcast is a good thing. I think Draymond is good behind the mic. But Draymond's good behind the mic in his own setting. I don't think he needs to be on national television. We're going to do the rat list in a minute, so I guess like I'll just empty the clip on this now. But like he's on the fucking Champions League final panel today. I don't know if you've been scrolling Twitter. He was just fucking on the TV today. Yeah, he's in wherever they're holding the Champions League final. Him and Embiid were just on the panel. They just had him show up and talk soccer with the gang. What the fuck? Do we really need more Draymond right now? Especially with inside the NBA, like maybe being in its twilight, do we really need to have Draymond in the mix? Does he really add anything? I don't think so. I think Draymond's funny in his own setting, but he does not need to be like thrust into everything.
I think Draymond is a good personality, and so I get why they want to have him on, and it does keep things relevant, and so maybe that like draws eyes, and he gets clicks, so that's what matters. But it is weird. I don't really know why he's everywhere. But anyways. I guess it doesn't really matter. Last NBA thing before we get to the rat list. keep it quick. We can talk a little bit, but Mike Brown has finally extended with the Kings. There was this weird period of time where they like tabled talks. It looked like it wasn't going to happen, but now he's going to be there for a few more years. Those tabling of talks never made sense to me. I mean, this guy's helped turn the franchise around. They made the playoffs for the first time in a million years. He's very clearly a good coach. He's a good player coach. He's a good motivator. So good for Mike Brown. Good for the Kings.
Yeah. Just got to see the Mike Brown video of him sprinting the sideline this morning. Good for him. Mike Brown, by the way, he was not on a playoff series. I saw people kind of being critical of the extension on Twitter, just being like, yeah, he got paid $30 million to be just okay. But he has been the most successful Kings coach in forever. So if you're the Kings, you have to like cherish him a little bit.
And there's also a piece to that where like it's also just the Western Conference. Like it is just really tough to win consistently in the Western Conference. But
just him and Doc Rivers all set through that 26-27 season. All set. Taking care of
Mike Brown, though. I like Mike Brown, so good for him.
It's a lot of money for a coach. Or maybe it's not, but it feels like a lot.
10 mil a season. It sounds like that's around what good coaches are getting nowadays. I mean, Ty Lue got it, Monty Williams, woof, he got it, but like a lot of coaches around the league, you feel like you're getting that much. So I guess it makes sense if you got a good coach and you want him. And I'll put it this way. I feel like if they didn't pay him, the Lakers probably would have swooped in and said, fuck JJ Redick, we'll give him money. Like there are teams around the league that would have jumped at the chance to pay him. I think you're getting similar like to, we need to play our player. Another team will take him. I think you're starting to see that with coaches. Like Jason Kidd and Ty Lue got their extensions after there were rumors that the Lakers could want Jason Kidd or Ty Lue. You know what I'm saying? So like there is a lot
of Lakers have changed. The Lakers getting everybody has changed the landscape of the NBA. Even also, NBA GMs and front office people are sick and tired of the fucking Photoshops. That's what we've learned.
Also, local kid Brian Keefe, officially the head coach of the Wizards. So good for him. W.
Oh, good for him. Yeah, he was the interim coach.
He's from, where is he from? I know he's from Mass, but I just forget where. He's from Winchester, Massachusetts. W. Good for Brian Keefe.
Right outside the city.
All right. Ratless time, Sam. What you got?
Ratless, whoever pulled an AK on Isaiah Thomas. Did you see this?
That's insane. I did. That's crazy.
I'm laughing, but it's fucking scary. So Isaiah came out, and if you haven't heard this, he said he was out and somebody just kind of pulled up and pulled an assault rifle on him. And then was like, oh, wait, no, I know you. I'm not going to kill you. I know you from the NBA. Like, what? What is happening? That is unbelievable.
Insane behavior, man. That's
crazy.
Is it
anti-Ratless because they didn't kill him?
No, it's Ratless for that being allowed.
It's Ratless.
That's horrendous. What are we doing? I don't know. I don't have much. I've just gone to the Auerbach Center the past 2 days.
Ratless, the Auerbach Center Wi-Fi.
I have to sneeze. Sorry. Yeah, Ratless the Wi-Fi. Ratless Amit. Now, whenever Amit sees me, he just flips me off now. I think that's just our relationship. So
you guys have
whatever.
You have beef now. Ever since the mixtape came out. Maybe he heard you say that Amit fucked you over. And he's like, I don't like that.
I walk in the Auerbach Center yesterday for practice, and the whole CLNS crew is there. John Zanis sees me. He just goes, Amit did you dirty. I'm like, I fucking know. This whole hoops thing is kind of spiraled though. Like Tim McMahon, I don't think it was at us, but he tweeted like looking to get some runs in Dallas. So maybe we'll just play with some ESPN guys. But they also talked about it on the Hoop Collective podcast. They were roasting Jay King's pickup game and like referencing the Celtics media game. So this is like people have seen this, unfortunately, and that probably also means they saw GTA fucking wasted over my dumb ass. But it sounds like there could be some fun runs in there. I think we might go play after practice today. We're going to play me, Noah, Bobby, and Richie, and I don't know who else, but maybe. But a lot of people have seen this. John Corrales came into the Auerbach Center yesterday. He goes, next time you want to ask me about playing, the answer is fucking no.
You're just getting roasted, dude. I'm telling you.
I don't think that's why though. He goes, there is so much fluid in my knee right now. I fucked my shit up. So I think he's not. Yeah, so Corrales, I think Corrales is unfortunately out. But he was like, I had to do a whole fucking mailbag section on my podcast because I got questions of why I looked like shit in pickup or why I would look slow in pickup or something like that. So Corrales, I don't know if he'll be playing with us anytime soon.
Corrales
again.
just on the hot seat for a week after that video went up. Even in the comments, he was just getting murdered. They were like,
Also,
this guy's a former pro.
The worst part about that fucking clip was Amit literally spread fake news. I don't think I fully addressed this, but you know the clip of like me getting out rebounded by Noah and then him going to the wasted thing of me like hunched over, head down?
Yeah.
That wasn't after I got out rebounded. That was a different clip that he just overlaid into the rebound thing to make me look bad.
Oh, no.
It's just fucking fake news out here, man. I'm getting false advertising. John Krause goes, now you know how the Celtics feel with the dog shit media.
It's true. It's very true.
Brutal.
I had something else to add with this. Don't move on. Oh, imagine you guys played full. You guys are playing half court.
Christian was trying to get us to play full, and John was like, Christian, please.
Respect to Christian. Big respect.
We couldn't play full though. There was a volleyball net in between, like in the middle of the court, like on the court we were on, so we couldn't do it. So we thought about it. It was an option, but it didn't end up happening.
Oh, man, what time are you guys playing today? I'm on the fence.
I don't know. I have no idea. I genuinely don't know. It depends on when everybody finishes their work. And for what it's worth, I think we're literally just going across the street, and so we will just go right from here to playing. So it's up to you. Yeah. But I can let you know.
I can't decide. I'm gonna have to look at my GPS and see what the drive is.
It's probably a pain in the ass. There's a shit ton of traffic at this time of day, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to play, but you know the drive. Rat list. Weird kid at my job. So I told Jack this story already, and unfortunately, he's not going to have the punchline of hearing it for the first time. I just couldn't keep it in the clip. I couldn't believe that this happened to me. So I have one of those jobs where we use like Teams, which is like Slack, if you ever used it. And I'm always at work. Like when I'm at work, I do my work, but I also get to enjoy messaging my friends on Teams. And I was talking to this one guy I'm always chatting with. And he goes, yeah, like, did you see this guy at my desk earlier? I was like, yeah, I saw him. He's like, this guy, like, I don't even know him that well. He's always like sending me like weird gifs of like hedgehogs or whatever it was, like weird beaver-like animals. I'm like, oh man, like that's strange. He's like, yeah, he's like always like calling me and just really bizarre behavior. So like there's no understanding of, hey, I don't know you that well with him. So anyway, at work that day, me and my friend went out. They had food trucks come, and I wasn't hungry, but I went for the walk. So my friend gets some empanadas, and we run into this other guy that doesn't work in our department. So I'm meeting him for the first time. Apparently he likes the Celtics, so I'm talking to him about the Celtics, as one does. And then the other guy, the hedgehog guy, comes over, and he starts talking to my friend, and my friend has his food. And the kid just kind of like looks at him and starts reaching for his food like real slow. And he's just like, may I? And it was one of the most bizarre things I've seen, especially having had the conversation with my friend that was like, yeah, I don't even know this guy like that. So anyway, I have my big ass jacket on because it's cold in the office. I've taken it outside with me and I have my hands in my pockets crossed. So I am protected. But this dude starts reaching for my pocket where my keys are. And he goes, may I? I've never met this guy before. I've never even talked to him. This is my first interaction. I said, no, I'm good. Like, get away from my keys. I don't know what you're doing over there. And they like walked away. What a bizarre first interaction. That's let them ruin your day. You're reaching for my waist. I don't know what you're trying to do.
So when you were telling this story, like all I could think about was this, and hopefully you'll be proud of me. This is all I was thinking of during that whole thing.
Give me that. What? Give me that.
Give me that. Exactly.
Okay.
You know, I was thinking about this morning when I was out running because I knew I was going to tell a story today. And I was like, you know what? This is straight out of I Think You Should Leave. You're absolutely right. It's like a Tim Robinson character that's just like walking around, like trying to go in people's pockets. Like, what are you trying to be a pickpocketer? You're in Pawtucket.
Yeah, odd. Yeah. Very odd. I don't really have anything else for the Rallies today, unfortunately. That's all I had. That's pretty light.
Rat list Buffalo Wild Wings. Buffalo Wild Wings. We talked about this on Wednesday. I was very excited to go. We recorded the
What was the
pod, then I
line?
went out to eat.
30. I set
The
mine at
line
23
was
and a half.
30 and a half.
Mine was 23 and a half.
Oh, it was 23 and a half.
That was mine. Yours was 30 and a half. I'm curious whose line was better.
My line was far better. So, Ratless Buffalo Wild Wings. I was so excited to go. I was so excited to have all you can eat wings. We get there for 8. Hour wait to get in. Me and we had a party of 8. So we were all sitting in the parking lot waiting, hanging out, talking. It wasn't bad. Like we don't see each other as much anymore. We're adults now. It's the worst thing ever. If you're not an adult, don't do it. But hanging out, finally get the call to go in. 9:00, sit down. They got The Last Dance on the TV. I'm watching these episodes of The Last Dance. We don't get our wings until 10:00. And they only let you do 10 at the start. You start with 10, and then each additional order is 6. Now, nobody listening to this is going to be surprised by this because this is how they execute an all-you-can-eat thing so they don't feel like they're losing a ton of money or wasting food, is they limit how much you can get at once, which I get. But at the same time, the wait between each order of 6 should not be a billion years. I only got to eat 29 because a friend didn't finish his. He was like, "Do you want mine?" I was like, "Okay." And I was not going to make everybody else wait for me to keep going. I was not full. But I wasn't going to sit there and wait for a 5th order of wings to come out. I just wasn't. It's taking 20 minutes between each one. You get 6 wings. They're boneless. You pop those motherfuckers like this. Unbelievable. Also, Ratless, you ever see medieval banquets? Just how long the table is and how many people are at the table? Yeah. There was one of those, but it was a bunch of high school kids. And they were behind us. So they undoubtedly had a hand in this slow service. So Ratless them. Nothing also Ratless, nothing worse than going into Planet Fitness and they got the summer of high school kids working out free flyer up. That's awful. Yep. I've talked to you about this before. They show up with groups of 5 of them just to watch one kid work out. They're just standing there while he's lifting weights. It's awful.
Brutal.
Maybe I just don't like high school kids.
I believe it. Start of the show talking about the break between the finals, and the show talking about the break between wings. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Oh, make sure. Come on. Look at the consistency. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Talking about how much I hate high school kids.
Well, we can let me have.
I am very unlike Drake. All right.
Thank y'all for tuning in. We appreciate it very much. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. I'll let Tim take it out.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening and watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our daily uploads. We're coming at you with something new every single morning at 5 a.m., whether it's these pods Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. We have game recaps the morning after each game and other videos in between, so get ready for those before the finals. We also have Talkin' C's live Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, tentatively when there's practices. It gets a little bit cloudy. Celtics the round table is usually Tuesdays around 6, but with so many of us, it's kind of difficult for us to make it work. And we have pregame, half hour before every single game. Jack and I will be here to bullshit with the chat. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple. If you want the audio versions of the pods and game recaps, those are there for you. So if you give us a follow, those will go right to your feed. It'd be really nice if you give us a 5-star review. We would appreciate that very much. You can also find our email, hbtcpod@gmail.com. You saw a bunch of people did it today. That could be you. You could be like them. You could be featured on the next pod. Definitely go ahead. Let us know your thoughts on the finals. Send us your rat list. Whatever it may be, we love to hear from you guys. You can also find us on socials at How About Them C's, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Facebook is just the name of the podcast. Our streams are there. They're on YouTube, and they are on Twitter. Jack's Twitter is at Jack's Money NBA. Mine's at Sam LaFrance. NBA, that's it for us. Bye.
Tic-tac-toe.